All right, week 4 of the Map Battle League. We got two maps, Ireland and Manaus. First map, we're going to do Ireland, which is going to be all 32 counties, including the north. So, starting off right away, we'll get right into it. Okay, looking around for some signs. Oh, and there's a nice big flag for Tipperary, so we immediately know at least what county we're in, and we're just going to assume we're in Tipperary itself for now, but that is not a guarantee. Although the sign there is pointing towards Tipperary, so we're probably not actually in the city itself. We're just scanning through the county right now to see if we can find the highways. N74 and N8. And we found N74. Cashel Folk Village on the sign. And that should have been a dead giveaway right away that we are in Cashel itself, but it may take us a minute or here to realize that. Scanning through now to see if we can find similar looking streets, but of course, this isn't the right place in the end, so it's not going to actually line up correctly. And we realize that now at this point. Oh, there's Cashel, and we see, yep, that's almost certainly where we are thanks to all the signs. And there's the folk village that we saw right nearby where we spawned. Yep, so we're almost exactly in the right spot. Let's just pinpoint it here, and we should be good to go. Presumably those are the side streets we're looking at just to the north. And we're on that curve and have the side street just to our south, so that should allow us to line it up pretty smoothly. Taking our time with it, but just want to make sure we got it right. And it was worth taking the time, because there we go. Nice full score. Okay, on to the next one. Castle Court. We're in a nice big populated area. And yes, we see the UK styled mail service, so we know we're in Northern Ireland, and we see the signs for Belfast. And this is actually very convenient because Northern Ireland in general can be a little tougher, I feel, to figure out some of the spots compared to the south. Mainly just because the road signs aren't quite as detailed once you get outside the big cities. So that we happen to be in the heart of Belfast here is very nice because there is going to be plenty of signage and a lot of tools to be available to actually narrow this down, which makes it a lot more realistic. So we're in the right area already. Now it's just a question of figuring out where that shopping center is and getting our pin down. But we're going to go see this fairly major looking road in intersection here. Yeah, hopefully that's going to give us the tools to line it up. City center to the south on the A12 or M1. Yeah, and we've now seen Castle Court itself there on the map. So it becomes just a question of just pinning it down to the right corner. At this point, we're pretty sure we got it right, but just want to be 100% sure before sending it along its way. And there we go. 2 for 2. And right away for this round, we have a nice sign that says Kilkenny on it, so we can immediately go in and zoom in there. Looks like we're in more of an industrial area at the moment, but thankfully there should be some good road signs nearby, so this shouldn't be too much of a trial to figure it out, as long as we can kind of get out of this little maze of streets and get to something with some signage. The businesses we spawn nearby should be helpful in order to pin it down on the map as well, but they don't always show up quite as nicely as you'd hope. Kilkenny County Council. So hopefully that'll be something that'll show up on the map and help us here. And based on the way it looks, you'd think it is a little more on the outskirts of town as opposed to in the center. So we're trying to scan around the map and seeing, not in the city center itself, but just try to the edges of town and see if we can find somewhere that lines up and looks correct. And there we go. We've seen the area that now looks right, and we've seen the sign for Oliver Young and Son, which did look familiar, something we saw earlier. Yep, and there it is. You can see that sign on the building. Right north of the curve. So we should have it now. It's just a question of making sure we're putting the pin in the right position. Cutting it a little close on time, but all the time we need, I suppose. All right, we got it. 3 for 3. Looking pretty good so far, which is encouraging because this is a map that I do expect myself to do well on. Let's see if we can keep it going. Round 4. A little scary at first, but we'll go down the road and hopefully something helpful will pop up soon. And there we go. Thankfully, not too far for some more well-traveled roads. Cairo Row and District, it says, which would be helpful if we knew where that was, but that's not going to be enough to go off of right away. And we are heading southeast towards a fairly large intersection. That's what we need. Some nice big highway signs for Sligo, N4, N15, and 16. Those all should be in the Sligo area. So we're going to go in there and take a look. All right. We've got the highway just below us. However, this is a good lesson in not getting turned around and losing track of where you're at. Because we were heading southwest to get to this particular intersection. I'm afraid I did lose track of exactly kind of the orientation and the angles we were going at, because I'm now convinced in my head that Sligo's to our south, or at least city center is, based on the signs. But that can be very deceptive, especially when you're talking about signs pointing to entrances to highways that can really be leading in all sorts of different directions from the actual entrance itself. And this nice roundabout should help it out, but I think sometimes when you get a bit of tunnel vision looking in a certain area, it can be easy to forget to step back and just think about, well, there are other sections of the city I should be looking in, or am I looking in the wrong direction? Because unfortunately, it turns out at the end of this round, we were not looking in the right spot. It actually should be on the south end of Sligo itself. And the more you look at those signs, the more that should be obvious. In fact, you can see in the roundabout that Sligo is pointing off to the northward branch of it, and that should have been a dead giveaway, that we should have been on the south side looking for that. But again, just tunnel visioned a little bit and running out of time, panicked and couldn't quite find the spot we were looking for. So very disappointing in this scenario, because we were on a perfect game at 3 good rounds and just let the ball drop at the end here on a round that really wasn't that hard and had more than enough clues to get, and we really should have gotten that. But disappointing to lose out and drop the points there. But that's how it goes. Again, it's just a little bit of complacency and not paying attention to directions enough cost me there. So for the final round, we know we've blown the perfect score and potentially dropped a pretty good chance at winning the game here. So we'll at least try to salvage it and get something good in the last one just to tie it off. Ballymullen roundabout, but there's a nice sign for Dingle, N86, which we know is out in the southwest. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't know how far we are from Dingle, but we do see a sign there to Blennerville, it looks like. And R874 up to town center, which is presumably Tralee, especially because it says Tralee on the sign. We're scanning the map right now, trying to find roads to the south of what would look like the correct roundabout. There are some decent-sized buildings and hotels nearby. Still thinking about Ballymullen in the back of your head, trying to see if there's anything on the map that's going to pop out for the roundabout. Plenty of road signs, more than enough information to go off of. It's just a time crunch now. Now it's just a race against the clock to see if we can find the right spot. There's R7874. And briefly see it on the bottom right-hand corner of the map when we zoomed out. There is Ballymullen, or Ballymun at least. Unfortunately, with 20 seconds to go, struggling a little bit, having trouble finding somewhere that really matches up well with the orientation of that road being south of the roundabout. So we finally see Ballymun, and we see, that road looks right, finally, with the roundabout there, the road curving off north of the river to the northwest. So this has got to be the right spot, or at least roughly in the right area, but with only a second to go, didn't have enough time to actually pin it down. Again, a little disappointing. There was more than enough time to get that right. Maybe the last round was still in the head a little bit. A little frustration of dropping points on round 4. So overall, not a half bad score, but in this competition, not quite good enough. You really need to pick up those points when you can get them. So in the end, I did actually end up losing that game. Well earned to my opponent, but yeah, just a good lesson in complacency and not being sloppy on ones you should get. But the second map, unfortunately, quite a lot harder. Is the Brazilian city of Manaus, which I do not feel anywhere near as comfortable with compared to the Ireland map. City maps in general, I like a lot and I feel pretty good with, but it's a very large city with not a lot of road signs around it. So if you find yourself in an area that looks fairly distinctive and you practice a bit, you can definitely get some pretty decent scores in it. But there's a lot of sections of the city that do look pretty similar to me and are hard to tell apart. Now in this case, we spawned on a pretty major north-south road, and we have a sign for the Amazonia Arena to our south, which is the large football stadium there. So we've already put the marker down nearby it. We're right around the stadium as it is, and we're just trying to look and see, if that lines up correctly. Although, frankly, I'm not sure what I'm doing putting my pin down there, because we do know the stadium's to our south. The problem, though, in this case, is that I didn't really have a good grasp of how far south the stadium actually was compared to my location. I think I let it, let myself believe that it was a lot closer than it actually was. And we're going to go south to see if we can find the stadium. The idea being that if it is close by, we'll know we're in the right spot. But I figure, that, we still can't be that far north, especially, with the orientation of the road we're on. But still going south and not seeing anything that really looks like the stadium, which is a little concerning at this point, because if we are that close, we really should have seen it by now. And now going north, we do notice the road curves a little bit too, which is a little frustrating because it doesn't quite match up. Although we do see on the map the road starts curving to the north, but we're not seeing those, same on-ramps and kind of intersections that we're seeing on the map. We look up farther north on the map and we see that, it's just a straight road all the way up pretty much most of the way. So frustrating that it doesn't seem to match up with what we're seeing. And we're looking north, north, north. And eventually the road does start to curve more to the northeast and then back to the northwest. But the big misplay here was assuming that we were this far south and assuming that we weren't far enough north. Because the reality is, if we had actually just checked the map farther north and lined up the road a bit better, it should have been more obvious that we were quite a bit north on the part of the road that does jut out more to the northwest as it curves. But we ran out of time. We couldn't find anything that looks right. I had placed the pin down on a northwest facing road as it is, but again, just far too close to the stadium. And in the end, the reality is that although we were on the right road, at least initially while looking at it, the result was way farther north in the city than I gave it credit for. And on a map like this, that's super costly. That's pretty much an entire round of points gone, just because I was too tunnel visioned in on the southern part of that stretch of road. So disappointing, because that's one, especially in a map like this where you got to take the opportunities when you get them. Where I should have gotten a nice perfect score, or at least most of the points, but dropping points there is very painful. And at this point, you just try to keep your head up and do well for the rest of the round. Thankfully for this round, though, there are a lot of nice clues. A little surprised to see a Foxconn building here, but maybe I shouldn't be too surprised with the global reach of them. We did see the sign right away for Burti there, or Buriti, whichever it was, which thankfully we, along with the BR319, were able to find fairly quickly, because there we see it on the map. So in this case, we already know we're in the right area. I just got to focus on pinpointing it, making sure we're actually on 319 itself. Yep. Trying to get the orientation of the road, and you can actually see on the map when I had it hovered there the location on the map of the Foxconn building itself. So since we saw that nearby, and now we can see it, it's just a matter of making sure it's in the correct spot with relation to us. We're a little bit off to the east of it. Boom. Hey, and we actually picked up a nice perfect score, so a nice little motivation lift following the catastrophic first round. But on this kind of map, it's it can be often be very all or nothing. Because if you don't get it pretty much exactly right, you're gonna drop a lot of points going forward. Okay, so we got a nice T junction, what looks like a big water tower to our south. It does look like we're in a fairly bigger part of the city, at least so to speak, to the untrained eye. So we're looking around anywhere with some green areas to the south of it. Maybe something like that water tower pop up on a map, although not necessarily likely. We see a road sign, maybe that's going to help. And possibly, I think if someone was trained a bit better in the city or practiced more or had more experience with the area, those signs would be more helpful, or at least ring a bell as something that can be found. But at this point, I'm struggling a little bit. I don't think I'm gonna find exactly where it's at, and just I gotta hope that I get it at least close in the right area to pick up some points. We're scanning the area at this point a little haphazardly, not with a great deal of particular logic to it. Just trying to find some kind of road that looks like it could sort of be right around the areas we're in, but it's almost a little bit of a random approach right now. Now, 15 seconds ago, we've made peace with the fact that we don't really know where it is. We're just gonna throw the pin down, hopefully somewhere close, and hope for the best. And hey, it wasn't that far off. But even you can see, that's enough to lose half of the total points for the round. At least we were in the right general part of the city, which is encouraging that we recognized it. So round four, similar issues to round three in the sense that there's a lot of clues around. It's a well-developed area. There's a lot of signage, but for someone in my shoes who just doesn't have that level of familiarity or a really appropriate level of practice for a map like this, it's a little bit of a lost cause unless I again see like a really distinct area that's easy to find on a map, like the first two rounds, which are very helpful, um, or some good signs. They're going to tell us we're on a major road or give a good indication of what part of the city we're in. So yeah, looking around for anything that could be helpful to me, but at this point we're coming up short. It's going to be tough, I think, to really nail it down. So we're hoping that we can at least just get the right general area of the city and pick up some points. but it's not looking super good at this time. I know I've seen some big radio towers up in this part of the map up in the northeast before, so maybe hoping for the best and thinking, well, maybe if we go in that area, since we did see some radio towers nearby, it might be close to the right spot. But that's a little bit optimistic and hopeful because, of course, there's more than one radio tower scattered around the city. Decent sized road though, going north south. So wherever we do put it down, we want to make sure there's a north south road pretty close to where we are. Well, that's not bad. We actually got it surprisingly close for how badly that could have gone. So again, still lost about 3,000 points on there, but uh, again, we ended up in the right general vicinity in the city, which is more than I really could have asked for a round where I didn't have a whole lot to go off of. But for round 5, we'll see if we can scramble up. Leaves a little bit of points for this last one. Hopefully we're not too far off, but again, the first two rounds were really, really generous in terms of what they gave us with regards to signage and just parts of the area. This one, not so much. Similar to the last 3 rounds were kind of rough. I think that rounds 3 and 4, somebody with a lot better experience or skill level in this area probably could have picked up a lot better points. This one though, I feel is pretty tough unless you do know it pretty well. We've got a bus at least with a bus route on it, but again, it's not something that's going to help me out a bunch. With a minute to go, we are looking in vain, I think, for something, anything. Trying to scan around the horizon, see if we can see any landmarks or something prominent. Again, a lot of the gut route logic goes back to seeing that radio tower and thinking, well, maybe we're in the northern half of the city at least. Plenty of tree coverage around, but that doesn't necessarily narrow it down very much at all, especially because we are still in the heart of the Amazon. And oh, yeah, unfortunately, not even close. Not too far away in the grand scheme of things, but far enough away on a map like this to really cost you all the points. So overall, disappointing because mostly of that first round, I feel like I should have gotten an extra, 4 or 5 thousand points from not scuffing the first one. It still wouldn't have been an amazing score, but I could have pushed maybe closer to 14,000 as a total. With that said, though, I'll pick up my first loss of the season. So well played to my opponent, Arca. Yeah, it was a very good game. Still, I'm very disappointed at how the first map panned out because I do feel like I shouldn't have messed up that slide go round and should have at least picked up a draw and picked up the points there. But, that's how it works out, and we'll have to do better next time. Next week, we're going to be up against Holtzkopf, playing on worldwide stadiums and other venues, which is a map I'm really looking forward to. And on the opposite end, we're also playing on an unusual world, which is a no moving, panning, zooming map, which I am not looking forward to as much. It's definitely going to be a little tougher than the first one, but there should be quite a bit of variety with both of them, so we'll see how it goes.